Hi, and welcome to the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. This episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show comes to you from Tags Tools, with 2 locations to serve you in Hamilton, one at 1104 Barton Street East, and in the mountain at 1361 Rymel Road East, your go-to store for hard-to-find tools and machinery. I've been trying to get this maker on the show for a few months, so I'm so excited to introduce you to Alan of Sloas Craft. Alan is a blacksmith who complements that with some beautiful woodworking. How are you today?
Unbelievable. How are you?
I'm good, really good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, despite the snow, it sort of put me in the Christmas spirit, so.
Well, it's about time we get in a good spirit this year, so.
Yes, I agree. I've just been rearranging my entire home to accommodate a showroom in my
good.
Used to be my office, so this is now my office where I do my interviews, which is kind of convenient.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much. You're an awesome.
Yes, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, right on. Okay. All right. So anyways, I guess we'll just jump right into things.
Sure.
Yeah. So just tell us about your background. Like, how did you get you do woodworking and you do blacksmithing? So
Yes.
how did you start blacksmithing? How did you start woodworking, and when did that all come together?
Well, I think I've been creative all my life. I've always made things. When I was maybe 6, I was trying to make my own go-kart out of scrap wood.
Right.
And then my mother worked for Brea College, which has a lot of arts and crafts, and she would bring home pieces of wood, just small little cutoffs, and I would make Star Wars spaceships out of them. I had a whole fleet, and
That's
and
awesome.
it really didn't. But all that didn't kick in until more recently. That's something I could actually do because I grew up with that. We lived in a rural area, and the farmers, when they needed something, they made something. So it was always just a part of my life, and I loved working with wood, and I loved working with different things. My dad was a mechanic, so I learned how to work on engines and take them apart, put them back together very early. So it was all part of, you can do this. But I had always grown up with that thing that we are all told, that you have to go to college and get a good job, which
Right.
doesn't usually include craft, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I got into blacksmithing back to Brea College. They had a metal worker, a blacksmith there, who would offer classes in the evening.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go learn that, and I went up and started taking classes from him. He's a master blacksmith, Jeff Farmer, and learned a lot from him. And again, that wasn't in what I could do as a job yet.
Yes.
And when I actually started a couple of years ago doing it full time, I wanted to not only make things out of metal, and I love working with wood too. And sometimes you see artists who work in a medium, and that's everything they make is out of that medium, which isn't necessarily bad. But I wanted to accentuate both. The grains in the wood can be brought out by some sort of metal sculpture, and the artwork of the metal can be brought out by putting it on a good piece of maple or something like that. And so putting the two together and having them combined as a piece is something that I like to do.
Yes. Okay. That's great. I love you. I love what you do. I just love it. So when did you start doing the blacksmithing as for a living then?
But it's been almost 3 years now. So I started doing it. I say full time, but I also take care of my kids, and so it's not 8 hours every day that I do that, but it's get the kids off to school, and then I can work during the day, and then we go pick them up, and then I take care of them in the evening while my wife works in the evening.
Okay, I see. Yep, same here with my daughter, right? Well, she's a teenager, but I mean, like, all the years back, going back even 3 years ago, she was still young, and I was doing the same thing, just being a mom
Yeah,
and
yeah.
selling lumber when I wasn't being a mom.
Well,
Yeah,
you're always busy, and I've really been liking the interviews that you've been doing,
yeah,
and I'm
I'm
really
glad.
honored to be included in this with like people like David from Northern Joinery and Leslie from Oak and Feather Decor. I mean, to be included in that group, that's real honor.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm just thrilled that you are doing this because I've been, well, I think I bugged you all summer. Just the odd little message. By the way, do you want to get an interview? So I too am very honored that you actually said yes to finally
Oh, well,
coming
thank you.
and being on the show. Um, I wrote down a bunch of questions because I don't know a lot about you, or because you're not, you don't really have a website or anything like that. And so I guess I just want to know, I guess a lot of the people that will be watching or listening want to know about how to start blacksmithing and what materials you need and what kind of machines do you need and how hot does everything have to be.
Well,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
The in The best way to start blacksmithing is to see if you like it, and it's to take a class from a blacksmith. So that is an option. I really don't have the facility to do classes here, but there's a lot of friends of mine who are blacksmiths in the area where you can take classes and see if you like it, and maybe make something. As you know, as couples take it together sometimes and they make things for their home or so forth, and that way you don't have to invest in a lot of equipment, because there are fairly big and heavy things that you need,
Yes.
like an anvil. And you don't have to have some huge anvil. You can start with just a heavy piece of metal, something big enough that you can hammer on. If you look all the way back into the Viking anvils, they weren't the big anvils that you see today. That didn't come in until like the 17th century or the 18th century. But they had small post anvils that they would drive into a post that was just big enough for them to hammer on and to make the things that they needed to make. So it doesn't have to be a huge thing. You need a hammer, and something to hammer on, and you need some way to heat the metal, which is also pretty easy if you look into it. You need an air source, and somewhere to contain the fire. And you can do that right on the ground. In some Viking demonstrations, they will make a forge in the ground that's
Oh, okay.
fed by a bellows. And with that, you can get the metal plenty hot enough to forge. And that's usually around 1800 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And once you get it up to that temperature, the metal becomes malleable. And one of the great things about blacksmithing is that you can change the shape of the metal. If you think about modern metalworking, in the machinist realm, you take a block of metal and you remove things to get to what you want, to make it a shape,
Yeah.
or you weld pieces on to make it look like the shape. In blacksmithing, you can take a piece of metal and change its shape, keep the mass, and
Yes.
just move it around to the shape that you want it in.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things that blacksmiths do that others don't is, like, I can take a piece of 5/8 bar and I can put a 5/8 hole in it by
Oh,
drifting it and pushing out the metal.
yes.
And you can't do that with a drill. If you drill a 5/8 hole in a 5/8 bar, you have 2 bars.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that's one of the things I love about it, is working with it and seeing how to move the metal and
Yeah.
which way you can move it around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then starting to understand it a little bit more. And it's kind of like Play-Doh.
Exactly. And
Right?
sometimes when I have a concept, and sometimes I will bring out the plasticine or the
Yeah.
Play-Doh,
Okay.
and I will move it, because you can move it
Yeah.
the way that you move the hot metal with the hammer.
That's really neat. Okay. Yeah. Because I was at your place and I tried to make a nail. You
Yeah, you
remember that?
did. You
I
did.
did,
You made a nail.
but it wasn't the nail I was aiming for. I nailed it, but it wasn't a. It was. What kind of nail did I end up making? Up like it was a one-sided. It was like an L-shaped nail, right? What do you call
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes they make that in furniture making. They would have a certain nail that would hang over that way.
it? Okay, so what are you using then? How big is your anvil?
My anvil is about 108 pounds.
Okay.
It was made in 1841,
Wow.
and so it's been around a while. And my forge is a small a portable forge,
Yeah.
and that's the same one that I would take to demonstrations back when we could have demonstrations.
Yes.
And I also have a propane forge, which makes it easier to do manufacturing work, where I have a lot of things that I need in there at one time, so I can just keep hammering and not have to stop.
Ah, okay. Okay. So you just keep that the heat on the metal constantly then with the
Yes, with the propane forge, I can set a temperature so that it won't burn up, because you can actually burn steel
oh, okay.
and ruin whatever you're working on. In a
Oh,
coal forge, especially, you can get it so hot that you just burn it up. And so with a coal forge, you have to be careful if you're working on several things. That's where the saying "too many irons in the fire" comes from.
oh,
Because if you have too many in there and you leave one too long, it will just burn up and you have
yeah,
nothing.
nothing left. It just
Yeah.
goes into the fire like
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
It just starts sparking and looks
Okay.
like a sparkler, and then the
Okay.
metal is no good anymore.
Right, right.
But with the propane forge, I can set a temperature, and then I can work on the different things and not worry about one of them burning up.
Okay, I see. I see. What are you burning then in the forge? Like is it coal?
Oh, I start with coal, yes,
Okay.
and the way you work the fire, which is one of the first things that a blacksmith learns, is how to work a coal fire. Is I start with coal, and then I bring the coal in gradually and burn off the impurities and turn it more into a coke, so that what I'm burning in the middle is more like a coke that
Okay.
gives me a good even heat.
So what kind of metals do you work with?
It's usually mild steel for most things. It's
Okay.
called mild steel, which has a low carbon content, so you can't make a knife out of it. You could, but it won't keep an edge.
Okay.
For tools, you need things with higher carbon content. So I also use carbon steels when I'm making knives, or I'm making other tools. Some of the tools that I use, like the punches and things, I'll use something like a coil spring from a car. That's usually a metal called 5160, which has a decent carbon content. Um, and then other things like 52-100, which is another one with high carbon content that makes good tools.
Okay.
So a lot of mild steel, but some of the more carbon steels for specialty items.
Right, right. So what do you have like a supplier close by where you buy like what do you buy like steel strips or
The mild steel comes usually in 20-foot bars or rods.
okay.
Uh, so yes, and there's a supplier fairly close where I go pick up a big quantity at one time and bring it back.
Just to jump into a bit of the woodworking stuff. What are you working on right now? Are you doing anything getting things ready for Christmas or
Oh, I'm trying to.
yeah.
I've got some wine caddies in the works. That's it fits over the neck of a wine bottle and has two grooves in the ends, so you can put a couple of wine glasses on it. So you
Okay.
can kind of display your wine on your table.
Yes.
I made some coasters. I don't know if you saw that.
With the epoxy?
Yes, I did
Yeah.
a epoxy pour in the middle.
Yes.
I like using almost everything. So the coasters, I had these thin strips of walnut left. They were about 3 inches wide or something like that. And I cut a groove in the middle of them and put them in a form and poured epoxy in the middle,
Yeah.
and made them into like a 4x4
Yeah.
coaster. Uh, and then what else do I have? I've got well, I'm making a few of my cross pendants, that
Yes.
getting that stocked back up, and a couple of specialty bottle openers. Did you see the picture of the dragon that I posted?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the other end of that will be a bottle opener.
Oh, okay. Because I don't think I read it, but I was scrolling through and I saw it. I thought, oh, what the heck is he making now? Okay. So you actually forged that dragon?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That is neat. Okay. Wow. Um, oh, I wanted to ask you about the dangers and precautions of blacksmithing because you've obviously probably been burnt at one time or another.
Oh, a few times.
Yeah, yeah. So is there special clothes or gloves or how do you, what are the
Well,
dangers?
you want to wear natural fibers like cotton. Um, the manufactured fibers, polyester and things, when they get hot, when something hot gets on them or the fire gets too close, then they melt
Yeah.
into your skin.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and so even if you move away from the fire, they're still burning into you.
Okay.
So you want to use natural fibers like cotton, and I wear an apron,
Yes.
and I always have protective goggles on because whenever you're hitting the metal, there's slag flying off, which is hot.
Yes.
And when I'm using my cold forge, especially, I use a respirator, and always have my ear protection in as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that noise. I wouldn't be able to stand that noise constantly.
Yeah.
Metal hitting metal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good opportunity for me to catch up on your podcasts, as I get to listen
Yes,
to
sure.
them.
Do you have the ones that cancel out sound? The-
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Right on. Right on. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, a couple things. Um, what the heck is a spring fuller?
Oh,
Because
you saw that.
I saw that and I was looking at it. It looks like one of those things that you stick into a hole to hold something together. I don't think that's what it is. So what is that?
Well, yeah, a fuller is a tool that blacksmiths use to stretch metal
Okay.
or to isolate it. Okay, so the spring fuller that you saw is one that sits on my anvil and fits in a hole, a square hole called the hardy hole. So it
Okay.
holds it still.
Yeah.
And that way I can put a hot piece of metal in between. There's two uh, bars that
Yes.
sit together like that. And when I put the piece of metal in like this, it squeezes them. And so if you imagine a piece of Play-Doh, if you made a cube or a bar out of a piece of Play-Doh and then you squeezed it like that, it would move this way, right?
Yes.
And then you would have a mass on this side and a mass on that side. And then you
Okay.
can work on those individually.
Oh, okay. So then you could have one on like one on each side.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Because you said in the post to isolate material or away from each other
Hmm.
or separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I don't know really what that means. I just wanted to understand that a little better. Do you ever
Yeah.
do like demonstrations? Have you ever thought about doing some demonstrations on like YouTube or something like that? Or you
Oh, well,
have,
I've thought about that.
yeah.
And there are some things I would like to do, but it's just getting the time
Oh,
to
no
start that
kidding.
up and do them.
Yeah.
Uh, Being able to, anytime as you know, anytime you set up a camera to do something, it takes twice as long.
Exactly.
And but I have a few projects that I just want to do some short films for,
Yeah.
and I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that some people on YouTube, they're not doing an extensive like show like this, which takes, I don't recommend unless you are committed to this. And I'm committed to the woodworking community, and that's why I keep doing this. But then I have seen some people who just it's nothing fancy, but they throw it on there showing what they're doing. They don't really even talk. They just show it and they post it. So, it could be a very simple thing if because you can't do your demonstrations now, right? To
Right,
be able to
right.
get it onto YouTube might be a good option. But like I say, yeah, you got to have the time for all that, right? The whole
Oh yeah.
camera thing, getting that set up and how many takes and all that stuff. So,
Oh, and then editing it.
yes, I have an editor. So I have somebody that does that for me, and he does a really good job. I think he's pretty awesome. So, what other equipment do you use? Then use the hammer and the anvil and the forge.
Hmm. And
And
one of the I just recently picked up a good post vise, which is a blacksmith's vise that has a post that goes all the way to the ground. So it's
Okay.
made to be where you can hit on it and bend things with it, because it transfers the force straight down to the ground.
Oh, okay. So you mean like you could put like if you heated something up, you could actually like hammer it and bend it around the top of that?
Yes, I could put it in the vise and hammer straight down on the vise, and it goes straight to the ground. So it's very solid,
Yes.
which is a little different than your engineering vise or your bench vise. That depending on where on the bench it is bolted,
Right.
it may not be transferring all the force,
Yes.
and they're not necessarily made for that, for heavy hitting.
Right.
So that's been really handy to have that. I made a mount for it and put it right next to my anvil. So that's been really handy to have that.
So, oh, how do you measure? Because like for example, machinists, it's all within whatever 100th millionth of a something or other.
Hmm.
What do you use to measure? Do you use the same kind of tools or for that?
Sometimes, yes, yes. Sometimes I lay out things with a set of calipers.
Yes.
Uh, and depending on how precise you need to be, I have a metal rule that I keep near the anvil so that I can measure hot material. So, and it's got a hook end on it so that I can hook it on the end of a piece of hot material and keep my hands necessarily away from it, and then measure out what I need to do. And then I'll hold it on a place like on the corner of my anvil, and then I'll make a mark there or something, like hit it on the corner of my anvil, and that makes a dent, and
Oh
that'll
yeah. And
make
then
it.
that's how you measure know where your measurement is.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. So how long have you been doing blacksmithing then?
Oh, I've been doing it about 15 years.
15
Uh,
years. Okay.
Yeah, but just full time, almost 3 now.
And I noticed you're selling on Etsy.
Yes.
Okay, what's the URL for that? What if somebody wanted to look it up?
They can look up Sloas Craft on
Yes.
Etsy,
Yes.
and they can also go to slowscraft.com. I'll own that domain, so
Oh,
it takes you to the Etsy shop right now.
I see. I see. Okay, great. Okay. And are you selling your products anywhere else in any stores in the area?
Well, I do have some things at the Makers Market in Aurelia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so yeah, they're great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even been to Dave's new store yet. Have you managed to get over there?
Not to the new one, no.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I would like to do that. Um, with the Christmas thing coming, I think you probably saw my post. I think I saw the one about supporting small business.
Yes,
I think it's
absolutely.
really important that everybody do that. That everybody just, in particular, I guess, look in your own area, but it doesn't matter who the small business is or where they're located. It's good that to support those small businesses right now because of this whole COVID thing. Um, did you stop working when COVID hit, or did that affect your business?
No, I don't have any employees, and my
Yeah,
shop is right here, so I didn't have to stop.
yeah,
And thankfully orders kept coming in. So
yeah,
I was there were some lulls in it, where people
yeah.
are unsure of what's coming next, but then things would trickle in here and there.
Yes,
So I've stayed busy.
yeah. That's good. That's good. So, and you live in Chesley.
Yes.
It's a beautiful little town. How long have you lived in Chesley for?
Since 2007, we've had a house here since 2007. I was working in the States for a while
Yes,
because I'm from the States,
yes,
but uh, been up here full time since 2009.
right. Okay, so that's quite a while.
Yeah.
My grandfather lived in Chesley. He worked for
Yeah.
York Farms. I told you about that, right?
Yeah. You were telling me that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And he told me, I don't know if you still get that kind of snow, but he told me because he used to be like bored. I guess that used to be a thing way back. People would board in somebody's home, they'd get a job out of town and
Hmm.
And he said he can remember the snow being right up to the second floor of the house and having to climb out the window of the second floor to get out of the house. Do you get snow like that there?
We haven't had quite that much since I've lived here.
Okay.
It was close. It was close one year, but
Really?
haven't quite made it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a beautiful area, and it's so nice because I can come and see you if I want. Because I'm going up the peninsula that way. You're just a hop and a skip over to
Oh,
go and say
absolutely. Yeah.
hello. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I covered it. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Not that I can think of. Just reiterate what you've
Yeah.
said is to help small businesses.
Yes.
I know my wife and I are going to do Christmas gifts from any small business that we can, and
Yeah.
support them as much as we can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So tell everybody your Instagram handle.
Yeah, my Instagram is Alan_Sloas, SLOAS,
Yes.
and you can see my banner
Yeah.
back here. That's
Yes.
that I used that when we used to be able to have demonstrations.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved going out and talking with the public, and actually I didn't think we were going to get to be able to, but we did get some volunteer time at the Bruce Museum, or the Gray Roots Museum. I'm sorry, the Gray Roots Museum in near Owen Sound,
Yes.
and they have that whole village there, and they have a blacksmith shop, and that's one of my favorite things to do is volunteer there and teach people about blacksmithing and the importance that it had in developing the country and
Yes.
really the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. So you were, yes, I think I saw something that you were there recently, right?
They did get to open for about a
Yeah.
month and a half.
Okay.
At when the COVID restrictions loosened up,
Yes.
there was still social distancing, and they were only open about half the time, but it was good to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I take it because of the changes that they're closed again, are they for
Well,
now?
they usually close the village when the weather starts getting
Okay.
colder,
Right.
but they usually do have a Christmas event, and I think they are going to have some
Oh,
sort of Christmas event. So
okay.
where you can actually walk around, but there probably won't
Yeah.
be as many volunteers there just to keep everybody safe.
Right. Right. Okay. And what do you think that you'll be there?
Haven't I don't know yet.
You don't know yet. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, you should make sure to post it on Instagram if you
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, give me a heads up. Maybe I'll be up for a road trip.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I could bring my daughter and a couple of her friends or something along. That
Oh,
would be
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Alan. This is awesome, and I look forward to seeing you again soon one day.
Oh, yes. Stop by anytime. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
absolutely.
Paula.
Okay, all right. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to stay in the loop. If you have any questions, or if you would like to be featured on the Live Edge Lumber Girl show, leave a comment below. Until next time.